So we start now, third canto. So the yoga of the king, the yoga of the soul's release. From this canto onwards, for the rest of the book, there is very little reference to Savitri. It is the first line is the line that connects this canto with the previous one. We've been told that Savitri is an embodiment of the universal Divine Mother's force that has come to bring about change. But she won't come unless the earth calls her. There has to be someone who can bring her down. If there is no aspiration, if there is no need, then the divine waits before manifesting himself or herself. So here is the aspirant, the human aspirant, who has brought her down. Why has she come and why has she come now? It is through this one embodiment of the earth's aspiration. Really, when there is a flame that goes up from below, there is always the top of the flame that touches the heights. He represents this. His name is Ashwapati, that is the lord of the horses. And horse signifies energy, one who has mastered all his energies and turned these energies in one direction only, and that direction is upwards. We all have energy, we can't live without, but our energies move in various directions. We are pulled this way and that. That's why we don't really proceed either forward or upward continuously. There are moments, but not all the time. But if one can do that, gather all one's nature and force and energy and turn it in one direction and only one arrives at some kind of a realization. So this from here starts the story of this one aspirant, the yogi. And therefore the second title is the yoga of the soul's release. In all of us, the soul is there, but the soul stays in the background. The person on the surface doesn't even know he has a soul much of the time. It is covered over by layers of ignorance, inertia, ego, indifference, and so many other things, desires. All that while the soul remains completely in the background. It doesn't push itself forward. It's not that it's a prisoner, but it accepts to remain in the background. Now here, in the yoga of jnana, the yogi has made the effort to remove these veils, these screens, these walls that separate the outer being, which is the being that you call yourself, which is the ego, from the inner person, the true individual, the soul. And that is why he becomes the embodiment of the earth's aspiration. This is sometimes called mukti or moksha, where we liberate ourselves from when we accept no longer to be bound by the lower nature and become an embodiment of what we essentially are. We all are essentially divine. But outwardly we are quite undivine. We've accepted to be many other things than the divine. This person has no longer an attachment to the surface life. This is in fact, this is the goal of most yogas. And Sri Aurobindo has said that my yoga begins where other yogas end. This is the beginning of the book. It's the beginning of the yoga of the king. This is not the goal. This is the first. For Sri Aurobindo, it's the start. But it's a very difficult start. So he starts by, the first line is very beautiful, because why did she come down? A world's desire compelled her mortal birth. It's not as if the whole world called her, but the being who represented the absolute intensity of the earth's consciousness, which is turned upwards. It is this call that brought her down. Who is this person? One in the front of the immemorial quest, protagonist of the mysterious play in which the unknown pursues himself through forms and limits his eternity by the hours, and the blind void struggles to live and see, a thinker and toiler in the ideal's air, brought down to earth's dumb need her radiant power. He brought her down. So from a certain narrative point of view, he becomes her father. Because it is through him that she comes down. But otherwise, who is he? One in the front of the immemorial quest. Immemorial is beyond memory, so ancient, so ancient. What is the first, earliest preoccupation of man? As he starts the first paragraph of the Life Divine, it is God, light, freedom, immortality. In other words, perfection. This is our first quest. Which is why, though we don't remember to ask for God or light or freedom or immortality, we still want perfection. We still dislike death. We don't like bondage, though we don't know how to be free. This is the nature of man, who is divided between different states of being. He is not. He is different. He has gathered all his energies and become one-pointed. One-pointedness is the most, you might say, valuable characteristic. If we acquire that, then there is nothing you cannot achieve. He is the protagonist of the mysterious play in which the unknown pursues himself through forms. What is this mysterious play? This manifestation. All kinds of forces are at work. In a play, there are different forces, different beings, different characters, and they are often, or they have to be in conflict with one another. Without clash and conflict, you can't have a play. You have to have a chief character, the main person, who you call the protagonist. He's not like anybody else. He is like everybody. He is the essence of the being that is there on earth. He will always have an antagonist. There will always be someone or something that will come in his way. And that is the clash that we have in our human nature. There is in our human nature, there is a power, there is a force that really wants perfection, that wants absolute joy, absolute freedom. There is also at the same time, within the same being, this acceptance of our incapacity, our imperfection, our error, and accept them as natural, as normal. Who has made this being? He is the divine. And so, he is the unknown. He is pursuing himself through forms. That means He is the seeker, he is the sought. He is that which we seek, but who seeks? Himself. That part in us that is most aware, most conscious, most capable of aspiration is looking for that which we feel is remote but is what we would call the ideal, the best, the highest, the truth, the bliss, the absolute divinity. It is the divine within that seeks the divine above, beyond. And this surface being is somewhere often at the mercy of all kinds of forces. Like in a play, you have different characters that pull the whole movement of the play in different directions. There are conflicts, there are quarrels, there are battles. And then there is a final, you might say, outcome. So the whole story of the universe or manifestation, he gives us in one line. The mysterious play in which the unknown pursues himself through forms. This world of diversity. The one has become the many, has manifested himself in the many. And in the many there is obviously diversity. It's not that the one has created only himself or something that seems to be only himself, but something that seems to be other than himself. And yet it is he who has made. This is what Sri Aurobindo in the Life Divine calls the otherness of self. And it is through these different forms and diversities and variations that we have to find our way. Otherwise, what is this meaning of the game, the play? It's not a straightforward march. It would be pointless if the divine created only divine beings that are images of himself. He creates things that apparently are undivine. All kinds of variations are possible and gives each of us the opportunity of finding our way back to that from which we came, that to which we should finally return. Each one has his own rhythm, has his own pattern, and it takes time. But that is what gives a richness to this game. It gives variety. Without diversity, there is no play. There is only singleness. It is singular. It's a linear movement. The unknown doesn't do that. He creates any number of possibilities from the darkest to the light, from the absolute resistance to the world or the being who wants only to rise upwards, everything in between. So we have in each of us all these possibilities. Each one of us is a universe containing every possibility that is there. It's up to us to decide what we shall eliminate, what we shall conquer, what we shall allow us to lead us forward. So this is the mysterious play. Why does he create this world which seems to have characteristics that are unlike him? There is darkness, there is error, there is failure, there is suffering. He is not that. Or is he not that? He is everything. He has assumed all these forms, all these phases, so that we might lose our way. If we don't lose our way, how can we find it? That's the game. You have to lose your way before you can find it, isn't it? And so he uses this world of form in the play of space and of time in the field of eternity. So limits his eternity by the hours. Because he is eternal, he is infinite. He is beyond space and time. He has accepted to create this framework of time and space in which he has as if put all kinds of forces at play. And the more conscious we become, the more we learn to select. and reject what we should not have. This is one of the conditions Sri Aurobindo explains also. The first conditions in the book The Mother: aspiration, rejection, surrender. What we should keep hold on to and what we should not hold on to. But that comes after, sometimes after a period of growth and experience, and as our consciousness develops, we realize these are things that maybe are holding us back. When we pursue certain activities, they make us develop maybe merely a surface ego and not the true knowledge. But we have to first make the mistake before we recognize what it is that what our deficiencies are, what our weaknesses are. Otherwise, it's very easy that I'm mother's child. Then why am I not like her? I call her mother, but why am I so different from her? I should resemble her. She allows it. She says, take your time, find your way. Eventually, you can't go anywhere else, you have to go to her. But eventually, when will that be? Even the Asura goes back to her. All beings go back to her. That is the whole mystery. That is why it's a mysterious play. And the blind void struggles to live and see. The blind void is in ignorance, unconsciousness, total inconscience, out of which there is evolution. But that evolution of the first emergence of the slightest consciousness out of total inconscience must have been a tremendous struggle. There's something that is slowly taking shape out of the shapelessness. Just like in our natures also, when something begins to kind of gel, take a form, take shape. Otherwise, much of the time our minds don't have forms, our natures have no specific characteristic. We are led by this, we are attracted to that, we don't have a perfect form. Slowly we realize this is not what I am for, what am I here for? It takes time. There is a struggle. So it is part of the game, and he permits it because he has made the game. And he gives us the time to work our way through this maze, through this difficulty. So this is the one who has made this journey, a thinker and toiler in the ideal's air. It's not enough to have an ideal. The thinker has an ideal, but he has to toil to make that ideal real. We tend to make an opposition between what is ideal and what is real. The real is far from ideal, and the ideal, you say, is up in the air. It's not part of our real life. Why not? Can we not make the ideal real? We have to take the trouble. There is a lot of trouble that we have to take, and that is the real meaning of sadhana. Sadhana means effort. It doesn't happen just like that. You have to make a lot of effort, and a continuous and sustained effort, not now and then, off and on, but sustained and continuous effort which gathers all your energy towards achieving the goal, which is what is tapasya. So this is the one who is the embodiment of the human tapasya. And from here on, Sri Aurobindo is actually describing himself, because he is the one who has embodied this human effort. He is not just the one who has that aspect of the Supreme, who has planned the universe. He has come down in the human body and has shown the way by going through all its difficulties and problems and as if cutting a path towards the Supreme. The first person who has to cut and make a path has to struggle more than everybody else. The others can follow it once the road is made. So it is always the case with the avatar. He has to show the way, he has to first make the way. That's why the toiler, to make that perfection, that ideal real. It was such a being brought down to earth's dumb need, her radiant power. So this is the last that we shall hear about Savitri. There will be no Savitri for the rest of this book, book 1. It is all about the yoga of the king, and the first one is he who could bring down her power simply by the force of his aspiration and his tapasya. His was a spirit that stooped from larger spheres. He's unlike it. So again here, he's describing himself. He has come down as a leader and a guide to show man the way. He's walking on the human path, but a continuous walk upwards is not the way human beings walk. We don't only walk upwards, we don't only move towards the light, we don't always ask for perfection, we run in the opposite directions also. So not so this person. But this guide, therefore, has come from above. Come down into our world, accepted the conditions of the earth, and has come to show the way. His was a spirit that stooped from larger spheres into our province of ephemeral sight. The word larger spheres, infinite world, and province is the opposite. It's a limited field. Our existence, which we really accept as something short, limited. We are not in touch with eternity, infinity. We say, this is my time, this is my space, this is my life, I've got a few years given to me, and this is what we consider our existence. It is small, it's a province, and not the vastness of the eternal and the infinite. And ephemeral, short-lived. We are here today and gone tomorrow. Even our sight, even our understanding goes before we leave the earth. We see so little, we understand less. So there is a sense of narrowness, of smallness, of limitation, which we accept as natural. We are temporal beings, that's why we call ourselves mortals. Mortal, that is to say, limited by death, birth and death. We are not aware that we are children of eternity and immortality. And yet that is our origin, there cannot be another, it's the only origin possible. But we relate ourselves to our littleness, not to our essential greatness and divinity. So he has accepted to come down into our little world or little consciousness or our narrow, you might say, field of experience, which we call our lives. We have forgotten that we are not small beings. We're essentially divine. But our sight is so limited, our consciousness is so narrow, and we believe only as much as we are aware of. So this is all that is true for us. A colonist from immortality. Colonist is one who comes from elsewhere to conquer a country that is not his and take it over. And he has also come from elsewhere, from far above, to conquer this world of mortality, though he has come from immortality, and make this mortal world immortal. As if he's going to put a new government, a new rule on this world of mortality. This is what colonizers do. They take over another country, which is what he has done. He has come from beyond and has brought down to this earth the first notion, at least. Before you become that, you have the notion that I can be. We have to first believe that I can be divine. Before I can make myself divine, I have to have that faith, I have to have that belief, I have to have that acceptance. The colonist makes the others subject to his rule. So we have to be subjected to his rule. So he's king. That's why he's also king. A pointing beam on earth's uncertain roads, his birth held up a symbol and a sign. So this road of earthly life, where there is always darkness and light, where there is the play of diversity and opposition, there is also at the same time a constant guidance. That never goes away. We don't see the guidance because we shut our eyes. Because we refuse to believe, we close our eyes, we close our minds, we close our hearts, and we don't experience the guidance, the grace, the help. It is always there. It never leaves the earth. That's why we stumble, we fail, we fall. We accept our deficiencies as natural, normal. But he is a pointing beam on earth's uncertain roads. His birth held up a symbol and a sign. What symbol? Perhaps to tell us that we can also be like him. He put on a human body and is actually one who is an embodiment of the eternal who has put on the human body. Why does the human then not accept that he too can be an expression of the eternal? We have to cast away our denial of that we are just merely human. If there is a divine, he is far above. He is all that we are not. He is perfect, he is eternal, he is infinite. We are imperfect, we are temporary, we are limited. We have always made this division. So this being, this person has come to join that other kingdom of light into our world of darkness and make this world of so-called acceptance of where mind seems to be the ruler. Mind always divides light from darkness, truth from falsehood. One beam of light, no matter how dark, the constant presence, the guide, is always there on these uncertain roads. And it is a symbol and a sign that if he can be like that, why can't we? He has come from beyond. Have we also come from beyond? Yes, we have, but we have lost that contact. Somewhere we're cut off from our origin. That's the whole problem. His human self, like a translucent cloak, covered the all-wise who leads the unseeing world. The unseeing world, the world moves on. It follows its own rhythm and patterns. Yet it doesn't know that it is being guided. There is this universal energy which is there in matter, which is there in life, which you call an automatic energy, a mechanical force that is turning the sun and the stars in the sky and so also the earth and man on the earth. There is a continuous. If something is constantly upheld, controlled, without fail, there has to be the conscious wisdom. If in the movement, for instance, of the earth turning around the sun, and there is never any change in that journey, it's not an automatic thing. There must be, because if it were, it would go in different directions, sometimes around the sun, sometimes around another planet, sometimes here, there, like our human natures. You want this now, you want that now. But if there is a constant movement, it has to be a control that is there holding up that movement. And that control comes from conscious wisdom, consciousness and force. So this consciousness force is there and he embodied it. Though he put on a human form, in us the human form is not translucent. In him it is. Translucent is that which lets the light pass through. In us there is density, there is darkness. Inertia is dense. Ignorance is dark. He had got over it. This is the yogi. He had removed the darkness. He had made his way out. That was his tapasya. So that his outer form becomes an expression of his inner nature, which is the ultimate goal. That outwardly you are what you are within, which is not the case for the usual man. So in the play of manifestation, in him he stood out as distinct, separate. His being was translucent. It did not really resist light. It let the light pass through. We resist light with the help, because of our ignorance, because of our ego, because of the mind. Mind has a lot of ego. It thinks it knows and understands everything. It doesn't need any guidance. You say, I don't need to be told. I know what I am doing. And therefore, while all this is happening, the divine stays in the background. In him, the ego is gone. That is why the yoga of the soul's release. The soul is freed from the bondage to ignorance and ego. And therefore, he becomes an embodiment of the divine who leads the ignorant world, though the ignorant world doesn't know it. Again, this is why he is the king. The king is the leader of the race. He is one in the front of the memorial quest. Affiliated to cosmic space and time, and paying here God's debt to earth and man, a greater sonship was his divine right. Although consenting to mortal ignorance, his knowledge shared the light ineffable. This is the divine sacrifice. Though he is connected with, affiliated, there is a thread that connects him with the cosmic space, the vast, the infinite. He has come into this small earthly field of time and space where we are ephemeral beings. He has accepted to be put in a small narrow cell as he accepted Sri Aurobindo. Though he never was limited to the cell in which he was put. This is exactly what Ashwapati is doing. He has accepted to come down into the smallness of our earth consciousness, of our earthly field, by choice. But he never lost contact. He never lost his connection with the vast. And why has he come? Paying here God's debt to earth and man. And this is a theme Sri Aurobindo has repeatedly expressed in different places of this poem and elsewhere. It is as if at some point there was a separation from the origin. The divine seems to have separated himself, or he projected creation out of himself. That is the creative Shakti that went into manifestation, created display of multiplicity. And in this world of diversity and multiplicity, beings emerged, and each one had to make his way, and often after much stumbling, much suffering, much effort, finally go back to the origin. So this is the theme he has given to man. You find your way back. You have to struggle, you have to suffer. It is as if he's made us like this, so he says, I too will come and share your pain. I will share your difficulty. It's not as if he has left us to ourselves. He has thrown us out of himself, and now he has come down into our world and become like us. And also showing us the way to find the way home, if you want to call it, the way back to him. And this is the leader of the sadhana, the one who is the teacher, the guide. So here, he has come as a human embodied being. Why? He is paying God's debt. Yet a greater sonship was his divine right. He is the Son of God, is accepted to be the Son of Man, so that the Son of Man can become the Son of God. And he has expressed it later also, God must be born on earth and be as man, that man being human may grow even as God. And if he does not know how much man has to suffer and struggle, how shall he show the way? So if he feels not grief, how shall he find grief's cure? So he has to pass through grief, he has to pass through suffering, he has to struggle, and then only can he find a solution. And then only can he say, do this, I have done this myself, you can do it too. So this is usually described as the sacrifice, the divine sacrifice.
Can I ask you, could you expand a little more on God's debt?
This is the debt. It is as if he owes it to us.
He owes it to us to sacrifice himself.
Yeah, because he has put us in this situation.
Right.
So now he owes it to us. You have to go through it yourself. Then only can you accept you.
Yeah, that means
otherwise,
he has to deliver.
Yeah,
he's delivering.
So I'm not looking at what he's putting us through. I know he's got to deliver.
He will deliver the bliss, right?
but really, it is just that
He is delivering.
it is, if he has, and he has, created this play in which he makes us pass through these things, we seem to be cut off from him. We seem to have to go through make our own journey, make our own path, and often make the wrong choices and stumble and fail and fall, and it takes hundreds of lives sometimes to go back to the source. And is he just sitting up there and watching us?
No.
That is the thing. You say you are up there and you are fine and we are not fine. So he says, all right, if I made you like this, I too will come down.
He takes the responsibility after all.
And he shares in our pain. And this is the avatar.
And then we get the bliss.
Then you say that you are doing it. And this is the explanation Mother has repeatedly given in her class also. This is the nature of the avatar. God has to become a human being, take on himself the burden of humanity and all its ignorances and all its errors. He doesn't come here as a ready-made angel. Inwardly he is the divine, so are we. Only thing is that we have evolved from below upwards. He has descended from above below. He has come down. We have come slowly up from utter inconscience to a slight consciousness, and the vital nature which is all confused, and a mental nature which thinks it knows all the answers, so it has all the wrong answers. We have to therefore make our journey, and it's a complex journey. He is following the same thing, but he does it knowingly. He has come down. He is not an evolutionary being. Man is an evolving being.
So we can say our suffering is more.
Hmm?
So we can say we suffer more.
No, we don't suffer. Almost we don't call it suffering. We say this is, oh, fine. Only much later you say you were chasing one desire and you're quite happy until it's snatched away from you. But in the meantime, you're quite happy, no? You don't realize that you're suffering. For a long time, you don't. You think you have something, and only when it is taken away from you, you suffer. Attachment leads to pain. Until then, you're not so unhappy. He knew all along that you will suffer. And if he gives you good advice, you're not going to listen to him. So he's going to share your story with you. This is the debt he is paying. Yeah? He's showing us the way, he's sharing our, because he owes it to us.
Yeah, he has a debt because we have accepted basically to suffer for
Yeah.
him so that things can change.
Something in us has accepted, true. The soul in man has accepted to plunge into darkness. So much that we have forgotten that we have a soul. We've forgotten that we are even in the dark. We think we are fine.
He's still there somewhere, and
That
we
is,
can
that is
feel
his,
it.
that is the transcendent aspect. He has many aspects. The transcendent aspect never comes down. The cosmic aspect never is limited. But the other aspect is the individual. This is the divine who accepts to be the individual. He has any number of aspects, but this individual says, all right, I will take a form. I will come and live with you. I will share my life with you. I will share my struggles with you. If you want, you follow my path. Every avatar has come and said just that. Follow me, I will show the way. But I don't guarantee that the way will be smooth. It's going to be painful. It's going to be difficult. But I know it will be difficult, and that's why I've come. We think it's not going to be difficult, and then when we face a big, you might say, obstacle, we rush headlong and break our nose. He knew it will always be there from before.
And then we know we'll be rewarded in the end, right?
We're not always, do we?
Yeah, rewarded because ultimately we meet him, we are able to.
We, for a long
No,
time, believe
we
in,
know.
no, you will be punished or you will be rewarded.
No, but I mean,
That is
at
our
the-
mental
at the-
notion,
At
no?
the ultimate end,
Ultimate end, yeah.
because
When you become one with him, then.
life is on an ascending scale. There
But
is
not
no
continuously. For a long time, it is not an ascending. That's the problem with ascending things, isn't it? It's staircase. You can go up down the staircase also. You can go up the stairs and go down the stairs. The same staircase. So we go up and we go down. That's what happens
But
to us.
it goes ultimately up,
Ultimate.
right?
Exactly.
It's,
It's a long journey.
it's the law.
That's the law.
So we are going to be rewarded. It might be
We
in
are.
a long time.
If you continue to be on the ascending
Yes.
path.
We,
You have-
we
you
cannot, we cannot fail. It cannot fail.
So that is when the tapasvi or the rishi or the yogi says, I will reject certain activities, certain movements that will drag me down. I will only accept those which my consciousness says will lead me up.
But
You come to a
will
point where you
remember-
realize it.
You will remember this verse. I don't remember the beginning of the verse where adamantine
Law.
is the law.
And yes, it is a law.
All things are fixed on an ascending scale, and then he
And
says,
adamantine is the ascending law. Yes.
yeah, and then he says, in the beginning is whatever the close
Yes.
is started, like you are saying.
Exactly.
The end is there before the beginning. So
Always.
in the beginning,
Yes,
is
but
the,
when is the
oh,
close
long
going?
time.
Yes. Before you reach
Long
that
time?
end,
Oh,
before you
right
reach
now.
that goal, you have to pass through any number of tests and difficulties. The greater the goal, the greater the difficulty.
Hard enough to be difficult.
The higher the goal, the more, the greater the price you pay for whatever is special. So we pay the price of pain, an error, until we realize, yes, I have to change. He has come to tell us that. So he knew, although consenting to mortal ignorance, he had put on human ignorance. His knowledge shared the light ineffable. So he knew where he came from. He knew what he came for. But he had put on this cloak of humanity, because otherwise, how can he guide the human race if he always remained unlike the human? Say different, and we will always say, it's easy for you. As people kept on repeating to Sri Aurobindo in hundreds of letters, literally hundreds. It's very easy for you, sir. You want to reach this, you speak of the supermind, you don't know how difficult it is for us. And he would say, for goodness sake, how many times must I tell you that I did not come with any advantages. I went through the whole process. But I knew what I was doing. We don't know what we are doing. That's the difference. So his knowledge knew. The light was always there. But he accepted to plunge into the darkness. This is the God's labor. This is the pilgrim of the night, the sonnet that he enters into the darkness. This thing that he has, there is a labor, there is a struggle, there is a suffering that he has accepted. This is the debt he is paying for making us suffer. He is also suffering. So again, a description of him, a strength of the original permanence. The permanence is the eternal, the infinite, that never changes, that is always there. He is an expression of that, yet a strength of the original permanence, entangled in the moment and its flow. He accepts to become part of that which is impermanent. The moment is impermanent, it is short. We live in the impermanent. We accept reality of what is evident only to our surface understanding. The rest we don't take into account. So it's like we are caught in the play of the currents of time. We're entangled in the different forces. Though he is, that's why we are tossed around. He is strong. He is the strength of that. Though he has accepted to be entangled. It's not a prisoner, he has accepted to be imprisoned. When I am imprisoned, it's against my will. He is imprisoned, he knew all along he would be imprisoned. He didn't try to run away, he made use of that moment for a different purpose. He kept the vision of the vasts behind. He never lost contact with that infinity, though he seemed to be part of this world of finiteness, of limitation, of mortality, which he apparently shared. He shared in our humanity and yet never lost touch with his divinity. Because for us, the human and the divine, we have put them in opposite camps, and he has not. The divine is there, the human is only a front. It's only a surface front. But it's so convincingly strong, the outward appearance, that you say, oh, you are like me. I said, yes, I'm like you. And if I can do this, why can't you? And that's the reason why the avatar comes. A power was in him from the unknowable. An archivist of the symbols of the beyond, a treasurer of superhuman dreams, he bore the stamp of mighty memories and shed their grandiose ray on human life. An archivist of the symbols of the beyond. The archivist keeps track of the records of the past. He doesn't lose them. We have lost our connection with the truths, the original truth, God, light, freedom. We have lost our contact, our connection with that. He has not. Therefore, he remains a treasurer of superhuman dreams. They are not yet manifested. Because he knows the ultimate, the original starting point is the divine, he knows the end also will be the manifestation of the divine. He bore the stamp of mighty memories. Because that is where he came from, and he never lost touch with that. And that is why he treasured the superhuman dreams. You have to be a great dreamer to speak of transformation, telling the human being you can become a supramental being. It's there in you, the capacity is there. You can transform yourself into a divine being. You don't need to be trapped in your littleness and to give up your body, you have to give up your mind, life and everything, and only your soul, which is divine, goes back to its original home. Why? Why must we give up this outer sheath? We have done so because we have accepted it as natural. But the dream of immortality has always been there. We've always said we are children of immortality. Amritasya putraha. We say it's just a formula.
How do you say it?
Amritasya putraha. Putraha is children, plural.
Amritasya.
Amrit, of immortality. Amrita is that which is immortal. So Amritasya of immortality.
Amritasya
Putraha. That is plural. Putra is singular.
This is Sanskrit or Bengali?
Sanskrit. The same you would say, but S-Y-A T-R-A-H. That's plural. He kept those memories, we have not. It's very difficult for us to hold on to memories, isn't it? We tend to forget. Forgetting is a symbol, is a sign of loss of contact with the source of knowledge. And it's a weakness that we have. That's why perhaps in the old Indian tradition, everything was transmitted through memory. So that you can hold it inside, the truth can be held within the being. It's not outside you in a written text. It is contained inside the being. Today everything is written outside. So the inner being remains completely often uninvolved. You read things for a while and then you put it away, you close your book and it's over. Whereas there they lived it, you have to hold it. Those are the memories. This emphasis is very, very important in the ancient Indian tradition, I think also in the Chaldean tradition, the Egyptian tradition, this transmission of truth, which was made through oral and expression, so that the consciousness would be changed, it could contain, and therefore contain that wisdom, contain the knowledge, and slowly grow into what is there. So slowly you can become what has been transmitted into you. It was part of the training that was given. And so shed their grandiose ray on human life. These mighty memories made his external experiences and expression also great. One beautiful line before we stop, which is, his days were a long growth to the Supreme. That's the ideal way of living. Each day is one step closer to the divine.